me to understand a bit. I
Yeah,
do.
yeah. I agree. That's the thing. Like it's amazing when you don't do that. How like I didn't anticipate this. How quickly you almost feel like you're not keeping yourself sharp.
Yeah,
Like,
that's right.
I know, like I could do another 6 months of being behind my desk, and I could pull out a good PT session. Right, I've done it for so long; it's automatic. But it's less about the fact whether I could do it, and just more that thing in the back of your head going, "I'm not doing it."
Yeah, that's right. I
Yeah,
agree. Definitely agree with that.
that's what I'm going to try and do for probably December in person for the people in the UK.
Oh, no.
And trying to do one of those, if either at least half a year, if not quarterly, if it grows enough. So
Yeah.
just again, keep myself sharp and just give you guys a practical day. And those things are always fun. They're always good to network and kind of get people along to. And I might do a few consults. I certainly don't want to do regular one-to-one PT again, but I might open up a few consult slots.
Okay.
In London, because I've got a there's a guy who owns a gym in Bank called the Cut Gym. And we were talking about me coming in one day a week and doing education with the team, which would be good for keeping my hands sharp and getting a bit of extra income. But that means if I can do like, I might do consults from there, not like a regular PT slot, but just like whether that's online coaching and then come in and go, I'm struggling with X, or a coach going, I want to go over squat techniques. It'd be more stuff like that. So everyone's a little bit different and I can explore some stuff.
No, nice.
So,
are you based in London?
Not far out of London. I'm in Guildford.
Oh, right, okay.
So like it's like 30 minutes on the train into London. It's actually quicker to get into London from Guildford than it was when I lived in London to get into London.
Yeah. Trust me, I had the same thing when I lived in London as well. Nightmare.
Where are you now?
I'm now in Leicester. I used to live in South East London.
Okay.
I moved to Leicester.
What made the move to Leicester?
Just you get more house for your money, to be honest with you. It's
great. Fair enough. Yeah.
And it's a lot more chilled out. We live out in the country now. It's lovely.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's less hustle and bustle of the London life.
Yeah, like, after 4 years in Hong Kong, right, I was ready for a change. Like Guildford's that nice, happy middle ground. There's a lot here, but it's not like Hong Kong where it's just like, and I miss some bits. I miss the fact that like there's some like about 20 great gyms in like a 10-minute walking radius, whereas there's no good gyms here. Like I'm also looking for a food prep company just to take that decision off my plate of cooking for a little while whilst I get the business set up. I haven't found anything that delivers here yet.
One of my mates started Simmer Eats. It's called. It used to be called RNS. It's now called Simmer.
SIMMER.
SIMMER .eat. I think it is on Instagram. They started off doing it from uni. They were cooking from the uni kitchen, I think it was, and now they're doing over 1 million meals. I think
this company. That's not Instagram.
That's the one. Simmer. Yeah. That's it.
Okay. What you think might deliver here?
Yeah, they're where are they based? They're based in Hitchin, I think it is. Which I don't know how far that is from you, but they do deliver. I think they do deliver nationwide now.
Oh, amazing! Because there's a lot of ones in London that might deliver to Guildford, but I'm like looking how far London is. I'm like, as much as I'm happy to pay a little bit extra for the privilege of having to prep meals, I don't want to pay like a massive delivery fee because you're coming all the way from London.
Yeah, that's right. I think with Simmer, I don't know if they still do it. They used to do collection points as well. So based on the nearest collection point to you, they will put the meals there at a certain date, and then you can go and collect it on that given day.
That's handy. Okay, cool. That's good to know. Yeah, so that's the stuff I'm just not used to. I'm used to like being a spoilt child in Hong Kong. You want something, it's there. Everything is there.
Yeah, I bet.
Yeah. So where's things at with you? Where could I help you this week? So normally, like how these work, there's a few more people on. It's like we'll go through the mentor forms, just use this time to kind of update them, and then go through any kind of struggles and work together as a group. But for this case, as it's yourself, like where do you need help? Whether it's client stuff, whether it's looking at some of the periodization and program design stuff that you wanted to talk about, like what would it get the most for you?
I think the periodization stuff, definitely. I'm still trying to get my head around how to do it, make it specific to my players and footballers. But I don't know if someone replied. I've not had a chance to check, to be fair. I put a question in the group about calorie deficit for players. So
yes, I saw this. So I'm going to give a reply to it now. But there was also Lee answered it and directed you back to the Tom Hibbert guest speaker lecture.
Okay, wicked. I'm not had a chance to check it.
That's more about training, but he did ask that, apparently. I can't remember him asking that question, but yeah. So there's different ways to go about it. So I think the big thing for your demographic is sort of expectation management. Like really identifying, you don't want to try and do everything at once. So you want to work at when someone's improvement season and when somebody's sort of like in season where performance is the key. And then also with you have a range of players, right? So for some people, playing is priority number one because they're, making money from this. And other people, they'll play as a hobby. So actually is being leaner number one, and then the performance not completely crash, but can it be shifted down the pecking order a little bit if someone wants to look good?
It's like a 50-50 really with those guys.
So it's looking at that as an individual, right?
Yeah.
So easy way of sort of doing this, if we cut it out. So if we go, so when's your? I know I asked this the other day, but so we've got. Is it all the seasons the same for all your players?
Say that again, sorry?
Is the seasons all the same for all your players?
Yeah. Unless, there's one pretty much. Unless they're in a different country, but it's pretty much the same time. So you're looking at kind of we're looking at August to April is in season, and then I usually say April to about June is off, and then June to August again is pre-season.
So April to June.
April to about June, April, May, 8 to 10 week block there is off season,
And then pre-season is June to August.
Yeah, that's usually the case.
We've got these things to work with, right? So there's the nutritional side of this, there's the training side of this. So what's the difference in demands from a football perspective? It's off season, off. Like off.
Say that again, sorry?
It's off season, off.
As in the actual time off, usually when we finish in April, I say you have like a 4-week off, like a break, and then get to doing some sort of like general prep stuff, maybe like May time. So
Okay, cool. So but there's no football per se. Even though it's not
that would be nice.
Proper football training. It's gym work or nothing.
That's it.
And then pre-season will be training for stuff. Some probably normally, I presume, more fitness and energy systems related stuff.
Yeah. Fitness at the beginning, and then it'll get to about July time, and then the pre-season friendlies kick in. So then it's almost like you're playing games every week again. Sometimes twice a week.
Okay. Season friendlies. Okay, cool. So we've got these.
I'm actually going to write this down just so I've got it as well.
Yeah. And most of this is just to solidify in your head so you can start blocking things off this way, right?
Yeah.
And then in season, you have how many games a week? 2?
In season, every at least once a week, and then there'll be a period like between now and the end of this year, Christmas, where you'll have 2 a week. So it varies for each individual. It does vary, yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay, so we've got this here. So we've got NHS pieces and friendlies here. This is completely off. And we kind of said the other day, right? Like, I would say most of your training here is probably going to be most of your GPP stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
I actually don't think off-season is GPP time for you.
What would you do in the off?
Well, it'd be specific to what they need or what they want. Because again, and that could be GPP stuff. Like, it could be that there's a stability issue. I want someone to get stronger hip flexors. I want someone stronger tibialis anterior so they can run further. Right? But during this time here is where they're probably going to have, you want to be more thinking about managing fatigue, right? So they're not fucked the game day, right?
Definitely.
They're probably also going to get a lot of conditioning.
Yeah.
Because they're doing two games a week plus training sessions, right?
Definitely.
So, in a sense, like that already takes out a lot. So, like stuff like tibialis anterior, hip flexors, all this sort of GPP small stuff, you can probably fit into your season.
I've never really thought about it like that. Never really thought about it like that.
But then the off season, then do you want to spend? If you've only got 2 off seasons, I know it can blend into pre-season, but April, May, June, got 3 months. One of those months you probably might have a little bit of time off, so like 2.5 months maybe of actual work. If that person needs to get bigger, do you want to waste time with that doing small muscles like that? Or do you want to get them into like, right, let's get them ready for the next season?
Yeah.
You're already conditioned, you're already in a good place, let's just go for it.
That's right.
So that would be where I go like more potentially doing your hypertrophy stuff or your strength stuff or like your traditional blocks.
Yeah. Would you go like, this is what I'm struggling with, like going for that linear block or going for like the conjugate method, or what type of like method would you choose with players? Because I'm struggling with, I find the linear block, it gives them a good focus, but then when they get back round to it, everyone's lost those qualities because it is such a long season. Whereas training a little bit of everything. Sometimes you said yourself, jack of all trades, master of none. But then I find that's sometimes more beneficial because you're hitting a little bit of power work, you hit a little bit of strength work.
Yeah.
Then you can focus on those.
Zoom out first before you're looking at when you're looking at periodization. I would zoom out and getting so lost in the weeds of what you need as a football. Learn to think about what someone needs as an individual. Because it's like what they need as an individual might be related to football, but also like do you deal with guys who've already got some weight room experience, or do you deal with guys that are beginners, or both?
They've pretty much got weight room experience.
Okay, cool. So that will differ your approach, right? Because let's say, for sake of argument, you've got a complete beginner, just hypothetically, right? Then a linear model will work well because you can sit there and go, well, what's the best for football? Yeah, but if they can't squat for 6 reps, then an undulating model or conjugate's pointless.
Yeah.
Right? If they can't generate intensity, if their skill's really bad, then it's pointless. So you'd almost look here and go, okay, that person would need to go for a linear, and we just need to mitigate fatigue with sets and roll volume, regardless of where they are in the season, because we just need to build that bigger base. Because I think with GPP, right? Pyramid thing, right? The bigger the base, the taller the peak. So, like, if someone comes in and they don't have a base, I don't care which part of the season it is. My job is to build that base. That could be GPP stuff. That could be conditioning stuff. It's whatever. What's the strength peak? What's the bucket? The thing that's affecting them. Like that's the thing I think of. It's like think of it as this pyramid, and then think of the strength leaks. So if I'm pouring strength or water or conditioning or whatever the goal is for that training session here, what's the thing that's causing this? So that's like, okay, what's the lifts that are going to be relevant to that football player? So let's say a squat because we want them to be explosive.
Yeah.
Right. What's the strength leak? It could be bracing for one client. It could be glute strength for another client, and then that will influence your program strategy. When you've got this for the individual, then you fit the program to match that before we even really think about what's going on here. Because one of the things I don't really like, and I know you're not thinking like this, but the one thing I don't like in strength and conditioning is that people get so lost in thinking about what the sport is and how to program for the sport. They go, well, how do I program for the goal? Because the goal in the weight room isn't the sport. How do you get better at football? Not by squatting. You get better by playing football, right? In the same way, and again, I know you're not doing this, but people throwing like boxing with heavier pads or kettlebells, just changing their boxing technique. Or passing with heavier rugby balls, like medicine balls. Well, I actually do like a medicine ball throw with a rotation, but for a very different reason. I'm not emulating rugby. So in that same thing here, I know you're not doing that. But when we start looking at this thing, it's like, well, what does that client need as the client in the weight room? What are they lacking? And then I'll then fit that to wherever the season is by just going, right, maybe 3 sets of squats in season is off. Okay, we'll go down to 2. And you'll play around with it until you find the sweet spot. But I would look at that first, and then we can tailor it to times of the season. We can come up with a structure that you think works best. But I as much as I like systems and frameworks, I don't want to get you so locked in that you go, yeah, but this guy's shit, but he's in season, so that's this kind of periodization. It's like, well, what does John need?
Yeah.
Does he get what I mean?
Yeah, definitely. That
So
does
like
make sense.
beginners, I probably do linear regardless, so just like manage sets, volume, and lifts you do to the different days. So I can do a linear model with let's use this example, right? Linear model in season, right? So we've got 10 to 12 reps, and let's say we do full body 3 times a week with this venue. And then they say, I'm fucked on a Saturday after full body, my joints hurt. Yeah. Well, we could move the intensity up and go strength, or we could go, right, if this is 3 sets per exercise, we go 2 sets per exercise. And I guess, how's it feel? Oh, not so good. Okay, how about we go from 4 leg exercises down to 2 leg exercises? How do you feel? Slightly better, but still okay. How about we have 1 big leg exercise and then upper body?
Oh yeah.
And like you see, we've modified the same thing to find something that works for them. Could be full body, upper body.
That's good.
And then we've modified linear for the individual.
Yeah.
And then we can go 8 to 10, 6 to 8, and if they're good enough, into strength. So you can still work a linear model in season.
Okay.
But I wouldn't necessarily, if someone's got weight room experience, it's probably not my favourite approach. But if you get
most of the guys, I mean, they say they want to get quicker, they want to get like more powerful, and to obviously the base for that is strength, isn't it? So
yes, but they need to be
most of the guys
in the first place, right? So like,
most guys are going to need strength at first anyway.
Yeah, like that's fine. If you got if someone wants to get quicker, more powerful, then like explosive strength, like maximal strength, things like this is going to be relevant, right? But again, if you have a beginner, is maximal strength safe or effective?
No.
So it's something you work up to. So this is why a linear block might be great. The disadvantage in a season is like we've got this season that is August to April, right? So like what, like, let's officially say September, October, November, December, January, February, March, April. So 8 months, 8 to 9 months. And in that 8 to 9 months, again, you could elongate some of these phases. They don't all have to be 4 weeks to like traditional block periodization people consider it to be. But you're probably going to do this, then this, then this. We have 3 rotations of it, right, in a season. And the problem is, by the time you got there, you spent so far away from here, you've lost the benefits.
Yeah.
And then all your conditioning work, like here, is actually more interfering with that goal. Maybe not that goal, but certainly when you're doing hypertrophy stuff. So I would almost look for your guys, if they're, I think what would work really well is either, it depends how much you want to think of it like a blocks, or you want to just kind of go, look, in season, our goal is to be injury free and mitigate, and just like work on some small stuff. Or whether you want to really try and achieve something in season. I think that's going to be hard.
It's hard in season because there's so many other variables, and ultimately they need to be fresh for team training. Ultimately, they need to be fresh for game day. So each week, like I spoke to you about this, it's like each week is can be very, very different, can't it? Based on how they're feeling, how intense the game was, have they got any niggles, have they picked up any knocks? Because they can just completely throw off the routine sometimes.
So then I would potentially look at in season, as we spoke about before, do sort of like a daily undulating periodization model.
Yeah.
So like, you know how we spoke about before, where we looked at the session and be like, what's the strength links? What's the squat? And then we said, okay, the B series brings up the A series, and C series brings up the A series. And then just focus on things like, what are the muscle parts that are often neglected that are going to be, so if we look at the A's being the sake of argument, like you probably put the thing that's going to be most important on the strength day if you want power. So probably squatting or deadlifting, I would have thought. Right?
Yeah.
And then that can change per block. So we do a block where squatting's the focus, then a block where deadlifting's the focus, and then back.
Yeah.
And then hypertrophy stuff and like strength and endurance stuff could be more upper body related. This is what I'd actually do. Strength, alternate between squat and deadlift, right? Okay. That's the priority.
Per block?
Like, per block. So let's say like we do a 6-week DUP block. Block 1, the squat is the focus of the strength day and all the things associated with the squat. Block 2, maybe the deadlift is the focus for 6 weeks. Okay. And then we just alternate.
Got ya.
And then the strength and endurance stuff, maybe full body. Yeah. Because this doesn't have to be lower or upper. It could be full body as well. It could be whatever's the weak link for that client. So the deadlift could be that their hamstrings are weak, or it could be that their upper back's weak and the bracing's weak, and it becomes an upper body session. Yeah. And then maybe like full body, because then you can work on some conditioning stuff, some peripheral heart action stuff, which is quite important for footballs in season to keep sharp and keep fit. Yeah. And then maybe the hypertrophy day is more upper body. It doesn't have to be completely, because there's maybe some hypertrophy weak links, but there's squats that you might need to cover on this day. But this is maybe mainly upper body, because then you can probably still actually get some growth on the upper body without interfering with training performance.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's just an idea. And then and then your goal there, maybe your target areas. And that could be, again, you'll know football more than me, but I'm thinking, what are the things that people don't think about? Hip flexors, tib ants, so you can run. That's probably the main stuff, right?
Hip flexors, hamstrings.
Hamstring, yes. And then maybe just
and you know what, feet and ankles, like strength. I know it sounds silly, but strengthening the feet, that's a big problem area for a lot.
I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I would absolutely agree with that. So these things could be cycled in and out based on the client. And it's just not, and this is where having a system comes in. It's like, what are the key things that footballers need? Right, cool. Like, where do they fit in the program? And it doesn't have to be in every program. No, where can I sprinkle it in? You know? And I would also maybe add into here excessive anterior pelvic tilt, which kind of comes down to all this stuff, right? Because if we think, if I try and bring, hold on, let me just zoom out and try and bring into skeleton. Try and see if this zooms in. I haven't tested the zoom in function yet very much. I'll do. So if we here get bony here, we're going to be naturally in a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt. That is common, natural, normal. And if you're an athlete, you're going to have some level of anterior pelvic tilt because that's going to allow you to have more drive from hip flexion to hip extension. Fastest people in the world of anterior pelvic tilt. Look at Usain Bolt.
Yeah, that's right.
But when it becomes excessive, and I can't move the model on the skeleton, but imagine if I sort of do, the more I do this with my pelvis, and you can try this, do it in your seat. Anteriorly tilt your pelvis, what happens to your femurs?
Everything's shortening.
You internally rotate, right? Your femurs will do this as you anteriorly tilt.
Yeah.
So now we stick ourselves in internal rotation. So in this position here now, what am I going to be more limited in? I won't have access to any more internal rotation.
Right, okay.
Right? So here, to free up some internal rotation, a little bit of anterior tilt, good, normal, fine. Too much anterior tilt, we're now limited in internal rotation, which then could cause to injuries and lack of power and things like this. So if we can get someone into that posterior pelvic tilt, you're never going to get them here, nor should you. But again, if we're looking at as we sprint, we're going to go through, as we come up, we're going to kind of go into a bit of external rotation in the hip. So that little bit of internal rotation is fine for power because we're going to come out into it. But if they're excessive, now we're going to think, okay, what's going to help with that? Okay, we get hamstrings. You've already said about this, right? Because if I've got, move this guy a little bit more forward for you. This thing's still so new. I'm still so scared of it breaking. If you think hamstrings, right? Attach on here, come down into here. How many players think they have tight hamstrings?
Yeah, majority.
Are they tight?
Yeah. I don't think just a lot of them just weak and they need to strengthen the full range of motion.
Being the key thing, right? I'm going to try and zoom out so I can get a little bit more. Come on. Zoom out. So we can see, hopefully you still can't see the knee, but you can get closer.
That's right.
So if you think it's crossing two joints, across the knee and the hip, right? If we're in excessive anterior pelvic tilt, does that shorten or lengthen the hamstrings?
You're shortening that.
If it comes, pelvis is coming this way.
Oh, you're lengthening, sorry.
Lengthening, right? So when most people feel they have tight hamstrings, look at the position of their pelvis. You'll see very quickly that most people who complain about that have overly lengthened hamstrings, not short hamstrings. So I always wear best analogy I was, imagine a guitar string. Do you play guitar? Have you ever played guitar?
No, never.
No, but neither have I, but I think this analogy works. So if a guitar string feels tight, doesn't move very far, it's probably been overly tightened at the top.
Yeah.
But you're not tightening it, you're lengthening that string further, so there's no give in it. So what do you do? Do you tighten it further? Or stretch it further? No, you don't, because eventually that'll twang. What do? Is you create tautness to that guitar string.
Yeah.
How do we do that? Well, we want to strengthen the hamstring through both its length and shortened ranges. And then we want to think about what's going to pull this pelvis up this way. So the glutes and the hamstrings will pull this back down. What's going to pull the pelvis up?
Hip flexors.
Hip flexors. Hip flexors is going to be a big one. Lower abs, obliques, that sort of stuff's going to be the big one, right? So I'm just looking at the pelvis here because there's a rib cage component here as well, right? But we'll come back to that. So if I think about the hip flexor, and again, the big thing when we look at hip flexor stuff is sort of thinking about which hip flexor are we talking about. So let me just turn this around towards you so you can kind of see the front. Because people always stretch hip flexors, but are hip flexors actually tight? Depends which hip flexor. Which hip flexor could be tight? That's locking them into flexion and struggling with extension. Going back to what we said about the hamstrings, what hip flexor would be short? Which hip flexors do you know? Let's start with that. Which hip flexors do you know?
You got the psoas on the.
You've got the psoas, right? So we'll come back to that one because it's not that one. Iliacus, which is
iliacus.
Psoas. Yeah, I can say that the same thing.
What's the other one?
Couple. You actually.
Can't remember it.
So we've got a TFL, not a big one. We've got a sartorius.
TFL, that's it. Sartorius, another one. Yeah, that's sartorius. Another one.
So the sartorius will go sort of from here and then come across here. Sartorius is called the tailor's muscle because apparently tailors always used to sit cross-legged. Funny that. But it does that. It lifts the hip and then internally rotates. Right?
Yeah.
But the big one here I'm thinking about is the rec fem, which goes from the AIS, I think, all the way down to across the knee. Now, if we have the tilt, this pelvis coming forward, we can see that this is getting shorter. So when people do couch stretches, it's this muscle that's really affecting it, not the psoas. So this hip flexor, the rec fem, as I come into an anterior tilt, is now getting shorter. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yeah,
so
it does.
If you want to have someone with a tight rec fem and couldn't really get into posterior tilt, you might do something first like a PNF couch stretch into a split squat that he can drive forward and open up that hip.
I think that's something I see a lot of my players. The rec fem is a tight one because certain things like testing like hip mobility, that they're quite mobile on the hips, but then when you're speaking about this, like they're really tight in that rec fem. That's what it is. It must be.
Yeah, it would be like it. So if you do like a hip scalp, and you feel someone's got like good hip flexion, and on passively you can get them into hip extension, but you do them like an Thomas test, and all of a sudden that leg hangs out.
Yeah.
It's normally the rec fem.
Yeah.
So if we think about that, so like adding a PNF couch into a split squat, so split squats could be good. So if you've got someone who's got that over excessive tilt, your sort of program could maybe start with, it could be more like backloaded structural balance work because you want to load them too heavy in season. Your off season could be something like in a lower body session, open up the rec fem with a couch stretch into a split squat. That's A1, A2. B1, B2 could be something that's going to pull the pelvis back down. Hamstrings, glutes, something like that. Alongside maybe some hip flexor work to pull the pelvis back up, or some ab work to pull the pelvis back up. Right? And then we maybe go into a squat. Not heavy, but maybe just like skill work. Spend some time at the bottom position, get used to these new positions.
Yeah.
Pause reps so you can have a bit of power out the hole, a bit of speed. That stuff could work really well. And then if I think here, like if you look at the psoas, again, why I don't think the psoas is tight, here, cross to about here. So it's not really that much of a hip flexor. That's what people are calling it, the hip flexor. It's more of a lumbar stabilizer, right? Because it hasn't got that much of a line of pull, right? The rec fem can pull from all the way down here. This pulls from here. That's such a small, when you actually think where it crosses the hip to where it attaches, that's such a small line of pull between my finger, this finger here, and my finger here.
Yeah.
So here is more of a lumbar stabilizer. So when we actually start looking at this, if I have the pelvis rotate forward, which is similar to me going to extension, I'm pulling these two parts further away from each other.
Right.
The two ends. Do you see that?
What about a bit of going off a tangent? The QL, would that play a part in that tilt? Is that would that be something to focus on as well? Or
QL's back here, right?
Yeah.
So QL will be more of a lateral shift.
Right. So it's kind of right. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So a lot of times people's QLs cause issues with sort of like lower back pain more than anything else because it won't really affect the hip because it doesn't properly. I suppose if it attaches to the hip, you can say it across the hip. But I wouldn't say across it. It doesn't attach to the femur.
That's
it doesn't lift the lower leg.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So, but you see, going back to the hip flexors, do you see that my point there? If this pelvis was rotated forward, if you're pushing this part of the band this way, do you see that?
Yes. Yeah.
So that means it would be overly lengthen it, and people have ridiculously weak hip flexors.
Yeah.
And footballers need it hugely. Same with tibialis anterior, right? You're going to be pounding stuff. But here's a great tool that I use for hip flexors, which humbled the fuck out of me, and I had a physio give it to me. I know I've got enough room in here to try this. See if it zooms down to me. How far can you come down to the floor? So you put this thing across sort of my base of my spine, right? So you're in a posterior tilt, right?
Right.
And then I'll put, let's say an ankle weight onto here. I want a straight leg. I've just got a suitcase here that I can't move.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine.
But then as I come in, I'm coming down into this little bit of extension, squeeze the glute, power up.
Right.
So I'm just sort of doing like a one leg lift, but I've got like one of those little ankle weights around my hip, like nothing heavy. That works really well.
Are you in posterior? What do you say? Posterior tilt there.
Posterior, because me having this block behind me.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I didn't see the block. Yeah.
Puts me into a posterior tilt, right? So I can't do this as a reflection. So now I'm coming down. As I get to this position, I'm now going to hip extension wherever I can.
Yeah.
10.
Yeah.
With the weight, and then I'll come down and I'll hold this for 10 seconds. If you want to do it all posterior tilt, you could do it with holding this leg. But it's just there's a bit more of a stability requirement here. But as I come down, I do 10 reps. The last one, I hold for 10 seconds, almost like a loaded stretch for the hip flexor, and then bang, as I come up, almost like a fatigued rep. Works really well with a tiny bit of load. Doesn't have to be much.
I'll try that one today in the gym. I'll try that.
Yes, but let me go back to the whiteboard because I went into stuff. But hopefully that gives you a few ideas. Of sort of some of the things we can be looking at. So that's in season. I think we've gone through in season a lot. Like, do you feel like in season's kind of making a bit of sense now?
Yeah. One thing with the in season, so I think you mentioned it the other day. I forgot to ask the question, to be fair. I think it was, you're saying like you're firing up the nervous system on like a Friday.
Yeah.
Or you're doing a strength session. I think we spoke about this on our last call, on a Monday after having 2 games on the weekend. Is that, I can understand the firing up the nervous system, to be fair, because I've tried it out last couple of weeks, it's worked quite well. But the day after a game, like I am personally, and I consider myself to be relatively fit, I'm completely mash up. So my players must be feeling even worse. Is like, will your strength levels be lower? Is it worth doing a strength session after, or is it worth just actually like taking a day to rest and recover and then going?
It depends. Again, that depends on one, how much they want to train, what that individual level of recovery is, and if you're actually trying to achieve something. Because again, this is what I say in season, right? In season, it's sort of about maintaining injury. So you might only train 2 days of weights a week, take that extra day. That might be the better option. But it also depends on, as we said the other day, it depends on why you're mashed up. So if we're looking at volume overtraining compared to strength overtraining, if someone's done let's put football aside for a second. If someone's done a bunch of high volume work for a few weeks, what are some of the symptoms that they might have pushed that too far?
Physically, the tendons will be aching.
Yeah, so like tendonitis.
Yeah, tendonitis is a big one.
What else would you have?
I think muscle soreness. You'd have DOMs.
Yeah,
a lot of DOMs,
increased DOMs that just don't recover. So it'd be more like signs of volume. You'd just be sore. Maybe you might get more niggles and injuries.
Yeah,
that sort of stuff. Whereas if you look at the nervous system, right? What signs that the nervous system's been overtrained?
Trying to think from personally, like I'm just battered, like tired, like mentally fatigued. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're looking at maybe anxiety,
bit of brain fog.
Huh?
Maybe a bit like brain fog. Is that another one?
Brain fog could be a sign of that. So you're sort of looking at sort of like this sort of stuff more than anything else, right? Now, both of these could be determined as mashed up.
Yeah.
So it's like, let's kind of get into specific of that. Like, if you someone, because people will use your terminology back to you, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So they'll say, if you say mashed up, they'll say mashed up. And then like, cool, what are you feeling? If they're just feeling this stuff and none of this stuff, then do strength on Monday. If they're feeling this stuff but none of this stuff, sorry, if they're doing this stuff but none of this stuff, do volume on Monday.
Okay.
And the benefits of having a daily undulating periodization in season is that you can just modify it. You're still getting all the days done. It doesn't matter which day you do them as long as they get done.
Got you.
Do you see what I mean? So you can like each week doesn't have to be the same because each week won't be the same. As long as you get the sessions done, you can do them. You can auto regulate a little bit on DUP.
Right.
And that's why I think it works well.
Yeah, swapping the days around would make sense. Yeah, that would make sense.
Yeah. Same thing like if you have clients who do like business traveling, right? Like if they've got loads of jet lag, it's like, okay, we'll just switch Monday session to Friday and we'll do the stuff that's less normally demanding on Monday because you're fucked. Yeah.
Makes sense.
So any more questions on in season?
No, in season that does make a lot more sense. Definitely.
Cool. So then off season, we've got from off season is from April to June, right?
Yeah.
And June to August is pre.
Yeah.
And I would like, but being honest, I would probably blend these into one because you just don't have that much time. Like, how is it? Early April or late April?
Late April. So really, it's May. It really is.
May.
Yeah.
Achieve anything. So
maybe look at maybe 6 weeks. Sometimes mid-April. Sometimes.
Yeah. So we look at like 6 weeks here, and then June or early August or late August.
First week, early.
First week. So we have like 6 weeks here into June, and then we have probably another 4 weeks here. It's like 10, 11 weeks. We don't really have much. So this should depend on the goal. So if I'm looking at, if someone wants to get bigger in that time, when it's looking at hypertrophy, I probably wouldn't look at periodizing it much. If I'm being honest, I'd probably have one block, and I do what I call step loading periodization. Step load. You've heard of step loading as like a rep scheme, right? 8, 8, 6, 6, 4, 4. But what I mean by step loading periodization here is like, are you familiar with Mike Isotel?
No.
So Mike Isotel is one of the leading researchers in hypertrophy. He talks about what's minimum effective volume up to maximum effective volume. Now it differs per body part, and if you look in your spreadsheets, there's a volume tracker, and it has like a graph on the left-hand side that says how many sets per body part. But generally, it's around about 10 to 24 sets per body part, right? Give or take, depending on the body part, right? Like some might be more like smaller muscles.
Is that per week?
Per week. And some, but some need less. Like, say, on biceps, won't be anywhere near as much. You can maintain on 0 sets for biceps. Why? Because you do a lot of back work.
Yeah.
Right? Like, say, like delta's lower because you hit more you're pressing. You know, triceps is relatively lower because you hit more you're pressing as well. Like glutes, you're hitting all your squats. But let's say somewhere between 10 to 24. So per week. So if we look at that, I would say you have this block, pick 1 to 2 physique priorities, and then 1 upper strength priority, 1 lower strength priority. Right? So say rather than, right, how do you want to look? I want to have big old arms. Well, let's just say big biceps, right? And then you say, well, you need stronger hamstrings for season. Like hypertrophy on your hamstrings is the lacking thing, and we couldn't really do that properly in the season. Cool. Right. So we've got a biceps and hamstrings split. Now we could choose our strength goals based off that, right? Okay, we'll do a chin up and a deadlift as our strength goals. Yep. Or, because that's the bottom, when we talk about strength goals, either come from the top down or the bottom up, that's our bottom up approach. Or we could, if they know that they're quite strong and you put them into that calculator, you can find out what's the weakness in those lifts and make that strength goal. Up to you. But let's use the bottom up approach as we've done it. So we have chin up and deadlift. Cool. So now we're going to build that program out. So we can then start to go, right, let's look at splits. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And I'll probably have a little bit more volume here, probably a 4 to 5 day. Just because this is the time where you can recover, you can push the volume a bit.
Definitely. Yeah,
recovery can be a bit better. So I quite like, it doesn't have to be this way, but like there's two approaches you can do this. So I'm going to write them both. Give you an option. Thursday, Friday. So I quite like front body, back body. So that's all your quads, chest, shoulders, day one. Hamstrings, glutes, back, things like that, day two. The reason why I like that is because you can probably get relatively close to maintenance volume for most muscles in those first 2 days. So it means you could kind of cover your bases on 2 days. And then rest. And then you can go target area 1, target area 2, and then maybe if you want to do a fifth day, target area 3. So I could go front body, back body, push pull legs, or we could go front body, back body, arms and shoulders with a bicep focus, posterior chain.
Nice.
Let's say we did that. Right? And when you're looking at that in the week, you pick whatever your biggest priority muscles are, put that on the day with the longest amount of rest days afterwards. So let's say if I'm putting that on Friday, because I have Saturday and Sunday to recover, I'm going to have a better chance for that to grow when the session's finished, so I can hit it a little bit harder. Right? Okay. Second priority might be here. So you notice I've gone front body, back body, and then I put posterior chain here. If we wanted to get, if the hamstrings was the biggest priority at 2, I've got hamstrings here with 2 days rest. I've got hamstrings here with 1 day rest.
Makes sense.
And then everything else fits that bill.
Yeah.
Or if you want to do old school body part split, because you've got someone that trains really, really hard and doesn't recover from big multiple days, we can then go, right, let's build it out. So let's say hamstrings and arms are the big thing. So then we're going to have Saturday, and let's just say we have Saturday, Sunday off. And obviously this is dependent on your client, but let's just say this traditional 4-day split is what we're doing. Right, so we're going to put probably posterior chain on Friday, right? Because hamstrings are goal number 1, because it's closest to the weekend, so they have 2 days off. So we have posterior chain. Now, where are we going to put our bicep work?
If it's not a priority, you can put it on the...
But it's priority 2. Hamstrings priority 1.
I'll put it on the Tuesday.
Put it on the Tuesday, okay? So this could be a pull, or arms and shoulders, whatever. And then you fill the gaps. What have we got left? Quads, chest, right? Quads, push. There you go. There's your split.
Right.
And I'd probably do like one split where you just do one of these things, or this works really well for a traditional hypertrophy split. This could potentially work well if you're doing a little bit more higher volume. If you wanted to do two phases in here, you could do a... Do you know what? No, it wouldn't. It might work. Maybe, so we've said here, we have 6 weeks, what, 10 weeks-ish?
Usually say 3, but you've got 12 weeks between the start, the end and the beginning. So
I would do 9 weeks or something like this, and then 2 to 3 weeks before the season, something like this. And this would be a higher volume strength and endurance block.
Okay.
Because I quite like having this pushing super compensation. I'm pushing a high volume, and then just letting the metrics crash a little bit. And even though you think the season's going to be harder, we want to make sure they really recover for the start of proper pre-season. Yeah, but it's not the weight room stuff that we need to recover from, really. We just need to make sure they're ready to play. So like that first week, you're going to bring the weight training way down, and then conditioning and game time way up.
Yeah.
So like, you could do that. And again, it's when you might get a person that's like doesn't respond well to volume, scrap this second phase off completely. Right. But within this first 9-week phase, you may go weeks 1 to 2. Let's say 2 top sets. And let's say you do 2 reps in reserve. Right? Week 3 to 4, maybe you go 3 top sets. 2 while they are. Maybe you go weeks 5 to 6, 4 top sets. Weeks 7 to 8, 5 top sets. This is a lot of volume. I'm not saying everyone get here. Hold with me. I'll bring this up. Week 9. Pizza is the week we do 0 RIR. Now, not everyone will get to 5 top sets. That's a lot of volume. That's like really maxing out the top of this.
Yeah.
But what you'll see here is that you might find, if you're looking at someone's resting heart rate, blood pressure, things like this, you might find that someone gets to here and they start to struggle to recover. All right, I'll run this until week 9, and then I'll back off to here. And I know I'll just do this. I go to 4 sets, I drop off. I go to 4 sets, I drop off. Do you get what I mean? So it's like you increase the sets until you see where that individual's volume tolerance is. And then you can hold that for the remainder of the block. And then your deload is by moving into a new phase. So when we get to the end, let's say we got to this week 9, we've gone 0 RAR, let's say we got to 4 sets. So let's say we went first 2 weeks, 2 top sets, next 2 weeks, 3 top sets, then from week 5 to week 9, we did 4 top sets. Or we start to see them really crash into the metrics. Then we go, right, we're going to now assess a new goal and then come back to the start.
Oh, yeah.
And it's using that first couple of weeks as almost like the deload from the last phase.
Yeah. How would you implement plyometrics throughout all this? Because I find with plyometric training is so important for footballers, and it's something that almost needs to be maintained year round, because if you don't do it, you lose it basically. It's like drip feeding it rather than killing them in one session, like just the one exercise per session kind of thing.
You could do, or you could do. I would do multiple exposures for different goals. Like you would do daily undulating periodization for your strength stuff, right? Like for your weight training for different stimuluses across the week. You can do a sort of same different exposures for plyometrics. So when you say plyometrics, what stuff are you doing?
Pogo jumps, depth jumps, broad jumps. You've got like the slower ones than the actual true plyometric.
That goes into things quite nicely. I mean, I would also add in maybe explosive med ball throws. That doesn't sound like a football thing, but rotation.
Yeah, loads of med ball work.
Yeah. So like we could sit there. So let's say we got our weightlifting. So we got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Right. Now let's assume we're doing DUP, and let's just put the additional thing in here, right? So we'll do strength, hypertrophy, and then we've got the strength and jumps. Okay? Let's just assume that's the way we're doing it, right? For now. On our strength day, warm up. What's your most power? I'm not a huge plyometrics guy anymore. Be your depth jumps, be your biggest explosive ones.
Yeah.
So depth jumps could be here as a warm up to fire up the nervous system for your big lifts. You're still doing the plyometric work, but it's used also acts to complement your strength training.
Yeah.
Then things like pogo jumps might be done on here, right? And then fill in the blanks with something else on hypertrophy that's more in the middle.
Be like a broad jump.
Broad jump. And that could maybe, so here, you could, I would have this as a warm up, and these as like a D series. Because it doesn't matter if you're a little bit more fatigued, and they need to be able to do these sort of thick explosive drills under fatigue when they're in an 85th minute of a game.
Yeah.
But this like really complements going into your big heavy lifts. Right. And then you could also do, because the great thing about plyometric work is there's no eccentrics. So if guys want to train, this could be sort of plyo and conditioning. Here, because it's easy to recover from. Again, that's extreme. That's an everyday training split. You can also pepper them in between, because there's no recovery issues. That sort of makes sense. I'll give you a bit of clarity on that.
Definitely.
And again, like you know the football world better than I do. I'm here to just give you ideas from my knowledge. So like take this, with a pinch of salt, run with it, put your own ideas to it, like make it your own.
Yeah, definitely.
Sweet. Anything else you need from me in the last couple minutes before I jump on my next call?
No, I think that's definitely I can get cracking with that.
Has that been useful? Has that given you some stuff to think about and work on?
really, really useful because I was like, I'm looking over here because I've got a whiteboard. I was trying to map it out, and I was like, this just is not making sense.
And sometimes it's great to get someone from another world. Like, I know enough about strength and conditioning and anatomy and physiology and what the body needs and how it moves and gait to be able to work out a rough idea. But not being a footballer might work in your advantage because you can go to the best football coach in the world and they'll give you, this is what I do with the system. And that is valuable. Go and seek them out as mentors too. But sometimes you get so lost in football season and I'm going, I'll zoom out. Who's the individual? And like, my knowledge of that makes you just like, okay, let's just take a step back and then let's start looking at this.
Definitely.
Yeah. Sweet, man. Let's stop recording.